So here's a little story how I bought some stuff from a random guy that contacted me, and I thought maybe I was getting scammed, but turns out I didn't. So kind of moral of the story, I guess you can trust random people that contact you through the internet and strangers. So, see on the truck here, there are 7 side-by-sides. And so these are Gravely side-by-sides. They're made by Polaris. These ones are actually all diesel models and stuff. They're basically equivalent to the Rangers. So kind of the story on this thing though is I had 2 of these Gravely side-by-sides for sale. And I had them posted on kind of like just a nationwide kind of site. It was like, actually I think it was like Tractor House or something like that, but basically just a construction farm equipment site and everything. And they actually ended up selling fairly quick, but just randomly had a guy call me, and he ended up being from Texas. And so he was like, hey, do you still have those Gravely's for sale? I was like, oh, actually no, they're sold actually. So, oh, it's even better, perfect. Well, I actually have like 7 of them that we're looking to liquidate. He was part of like this limestone quarry or mine or however you get it down in Texas, and they said that the business went out of business and they were looking to liquidate them, and they basically just had a whole lot that they wanted to get sold. He was like, I think I'd let them go super cheap and stuff just to get rid of them. And I'm like, okay, well, how cheap you talking and stuff? So originally he was saying he wanted 20 grand for all 7 of them. So, under 3,000 a piece. The ones I was selling, I had posted for around 7,500. So I'm like, well, that kind of sounds like an excellent deal. So I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty interested. He's down in Austin, Texas. I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, so it's like a 12-hour drive. And with my trailer, the most I could take was 3 at a time. I wasn't too crazy about actually making that whole trip myself and everything. So I thought, well, let me kind of look into shipping, and that's kind of going back and forth, which actually around the same time I just bought like my new F-250, which I was like, that would definitely make the trip just fine. So I thought, maybe I could go down there, buy half of them, come back a month later and buy the other half and stuff. So I was kind of debating that, and then kind of, weighing out the options and everything. So I thought, well, I better check into some pricing for shipping. So I just did a quote through like Shipley, and you get these people, a million quotes at a time, and the quotes were anywhere from like $4,000 to like $8,000 to ship all 7 of them and everything. And so I was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I kind of figured if I did the trip myself, it would cost me probably around $1,000 a trip or so I'd save a little money. But then you're talking about the time that it takes to drive down there and back and everything. So then I kind of remembered I got kind of like a random email, just kind of a spam email. And there's like this transporting company that emails me kind of once a month. And they're always like, oh, if you need stuff shipped, this and that, contact us and everything. And so I thought, well, let me just get a quote from them too. Got a quote from him. Originally, it came back at like, I think he said like 5,000 or something. I was like, well, it's probably kind of in the realm of other ones I was getting. So I said I did online stuff. So he was like, well, what's your lowest, quote? And I said it was like 4,000. So then he called me back next day, and then he was like, I could do it for like 3,800. I'm like, okay, well, that sounds great. So I could probably have somebody there next week. I'm like, yeah, I think that'd be all right. So then I contacted the guy with the side-by-sides, and I was like, yep, let's do this. Yep, I'll buy all 7 of them and everything, and then, send me an invoice or whatever, and I'll get you paid and stuff and wire the money. So he sends me an invoice. Originally, like I said, he was saying he wanted 20,000 for all 7 of them. He sends me an invoice that was for 16,000. So I was like, well, I'm not gonna go complain about a $4,000 price cut. Yeah, sure, that sounds great. So I wired him the money, was setting up the shipping, and then the shipper, he had somebody that said he could originally get there like Thursday of this one week, and then so then I wired the guy the money on Monday. So it was like Thursday, supposed to get picked up. It got delayed. Like, he should be there Friday. Wasn't there Friday either. And then all of a sudden that shipper couldn't get there, which I hadn't actually paid for the shipping yet, but I'm kind of starting to get a little worried because like it kind of sounded like the first shipper couldn't really get a hold of the guy that was selling these side-by-sides and stuff. So I started to panic a little bit, thinking like, oh boy, did somebody just kind of like scam me here and like, just sold me this, excellent deal and then just took my money and ran. But luckily, the guy started responding back through email and stuff, and he called me a few times, and he was usually pretty responsive. And I don't know, I mean, the email chain and everything else looks pretty legitimate. So then my shipper guy finally got back to me. He's like, well, you know, I can have somebody there like this next Monday. So that finally went through. And so today's Tuesday, and they got picked up yesterday and just showed up this morning. It's like 8:30 this morning, and yeah, the whole thing actually went through. So I was pretty nervous because, like I said, it just wired money to some random company out in Texas that just called me out of the blue, not really knowing what was going to happen. But they all showed up. Everything showed up on time here. My shipping ended up being cheaper than what I was finding online. So I think the next plan is here. We're gonna get all these things kind of cleaned up, kind of go through them and maybe kind of tally up what these things are actually worth and stuff. But overall, I think this gamble is probably worth it, considering, you know, in the end I paid $16,000 for all 7 of these plus $3,800 in shipping. So I'm into them all, you know, for under $3 grand a piece, and said retail on them should easily be you know, probably around $6,500, which they're all pretty dirty. Like I said, it was a limestone quarry place, and so there's obviously a lot of that. That's going to take some pretty good work to get all these things cleaned up, but supposedly they all run and drive. So we're going to find out here and get these things unloaded. Well, they're all unloaded. We had to forklift the last one off. For some reason, that one didn't want to start, but it might have been a low battery or something. After it sat here, it ended up firing right up. But so these are all diesels and stuff, so it might have been something with the glow plugs or something that need to be warmed up for a certain amount of time. I don't really know. So I had 2 of them sitting over there. I got 5 of them sitting over here. Not 100% sure where I'm going to get all these things inside, but drove most of them around. They all need a little bit of work. They definitely feel like they're going to need like at least some belts here and there, and U-joints for the prop shafts, and pretty much all the driver's side seats there a little torn up, so I'll recover a bunch of those, and obviously they're going to need to be very cleaned up. So definitely going to do kind of a part 2 on these things and kind of get them all cleaned up, and then see what I'm going to do exactly as far as how I'm going to sell them. My thoughts were to maybe auction a couple of them off just to get them gone kind of quickly, and then sell the rest of them probably privately. But yeah, I think I'll definitely do a part 2 on this, so follow along and see what happens with these things.